He sees it as European nations basically funding their welfare states, giving free healthcare, giving pensions at the expense of American defense. You think that view is fair?
The second half of the view is fair, but the first half I would not buy into, because I think that, and I'm pretty much confident of the fact that the American president, Trump, very much realized, and his whole team, based on my conversations when I was in Washington in March, when I was there in April, when I had the conversations last week in The Hague, that for the US to stay strong and safe, there is this embeddedness with European security. And of course, working together to keep the Indo-Pacific safe. But I do agree with the second half, because there is this enormous irritant since Eisenhower with American presidents. And I think they're completely right that the Europeans were not paying enough. And that where you are paying on average 3.5% of your GDP on defense, that the Europeans were, struggling to get to 2%. So there, he has a big point. And luckily, last week in The Hague, we solved that.
Before we get into that substance, I'd like to talk a little bit about the style, because your interactions with President Trump in the aftermath of that meeting have been called, and I'm quoting here, fawning, an orchestrated grovel. I saw someone refer to NATO now as the North Atlantic Trump Organization. It's been a week of a lot of criticism. How do you see it?
Well, let's face what is happening. There were 7 or 8 countries in Europe not at 2%. This was so now it's 5%, a new benchmark. Do we really think that we would have been able last week in The Hague to agree to that 5% if Trump would not have been re-elected as president of the United States? So I think when somebody deserves praise, that praise should be given. And President Trump deserves all the praise, because without his leadership, without him being re-elected as president of the United States, the 2% this year and the 5% in 2035, we would never, ever, ever have been able to achieve agreement on this.
I want to get to what exactly these numbers are and what they mean, but there are these two camps after this summit. One said that you did what you did to sort of pacify President Trump's ego and have a successful summit, which you did. And the other says that while our president likes flattery, he ultimately sees it as weakness, and it only appeases him for so long. I'm sure you've seen all this commentary afterwards.
I was 14 years Prime Minister of the Netherlands, so I know about criticism, but I don't care. In the end, I need to do my job. I have to keep the whole of NATO together. And the biggest ally is the United States. That biggest ally has paid since Eisenhower more than the Europeans. And now for the first time in 65 years, we will equalize between what the US is paying and what the Europeans are paying. So, and without Trump, that would not have happened.
Did you mind the text message that you sent him being made public by him?
Not at all, because what was in the text message is exactly as I see it. One, that he did an excellent job on Iran with the bombing of the nuclear facility. And as I said in that text message, you are now flying into another big success, which is a NATO summit, which will commit to 5% defense spending. And this is transformational.
All right.